Welcome to episode 2 of Setting Precedents. I'm Steve Shlisky, the Activities and Programs Chair of the San Francisco chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, NATAS for short.
And I'm Randy Forsman. I am the current president of the San Francisco chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Steve, how are you today?
Oh, I'm good. Randy, I understand you have a new family member.
Yeah, about a week ago, my wife surprised me, came home with a 12-week-old kitten. So it's been a bit of a... I'm currently recording in her spare room, so she is crawling all over me while we do this podcast.
And it was a survey of sorts. You mentioned it on Facebook, and you were going to name it Millie or Piper. Which name did you choose?
I actually went with Penny. Our previous cat's name was Abby, named after Abbey Road from the Beatles. So Penny is Penny Lane. I liked Millie or Piper, but Penny just kind of stuck, so we went with that.
She's running around like a crazy kitten.
Yeah, my studio is currently also her bedroom, so I have to share my space for the podcast.
Well, since our last podcast, we've had a board meeting, and some very exciting ideas have come out of that.
Yeah, one of our most intriguing is a plan we're going to host a Diversity Roundtable coming up soon.
Both the local chapter and national have kicked around this idea to improve our engagement. We're taking a first step, so to speak, a first step to try and find those demographically dissimilar groups and individuals and just talk to them about our organization and in broadcasting in general.
Well, we've invited a kind of a range of speakers in sort of a Zoom roundtable format, groups underrepresented in our local chapter. So on October 3rd, we'll be hosting this live event. We're encouraging all members to participate, kind of share their views, ask questions of the panelists. We want to get participation from as many broad-reaching areas as possible.
We want to foster an inclusive climate within our chapter, which we hope will filter up to the national organization and the 18 other chapters. We will, of course, record the event and make it available on our website.
Well, let's get started then.
During our last meeting, we created a diversity committee within the membership committee with the help of our newest board member, Troy Espera. Thanks, Troy, for taking your time.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast today.
Welcome, Troy. So Troy is the head of the news production for ABS-CBN International, locally known as the Filipino channel.
That's right.
So Troy, what are we talking about when we say diversity media?
Okay, that's a really good question. So for our purposes, diversity media is really our effort to target content creators and media outlets that serve underrepresented audiences. Examples of these are ethnic media like the Filipino channel where I work. We also have outlets like Native Voice TV that serves the Native American community. And there's just a wide variety of content creators in that ethnic minority diversity media space that are really creating content about their own communities for their communities. So these are who we're talking about when we talk about diversity media.
Troy, what are some of the challenges that diversity media groups face that you think NATAS can help with?
There's really 3 things that are top of mind for me when I think about the challenges that those of us who work in this space face. So the first one would be capacity building. What are some of the best practices in our region that these organizations can apply to their own operations? Because there's very well established, very well funded outlets who are really leaders in our industry that we can really learn from. Something else is visibility in the industry, because for ethnic media, for example, we can be sort of insular and really sticking to our own communities. So we don't really see the opportunities of networking, opportunities to amplify our own brands, opportunities to just really participate in a media community. So visibility is really an issue with that because those opportunities don't come to us. So there needs to be more of a two-way exchange between what we're doing in our community and the greater industry or greater TV community as a whole. Many of these outlets and organizations tend to be smaller, so they don't have the larger budgets of maybe what like a Disney owned and operated station might have. So things like development, training may not be so accessible to these organizations. So I think this is another area that NATAS can really help by offering programs and training, skills development, things like that, that may be out of budget for some of these organizations.
So Troy, what are some of the things you want folks in the general market outlets to appreciate about content creators who kind of serve underrepresented communities?
Yeah, Randy, thanks for that question. I think that if there's one thing that I want people to know it's how valuable these outlets are to the media landscape. And I'm going to quote Martin Reynolds, who's one of my mentors from the Maynard Institute for Journalism Education. He said that while mainstream media has the reach, it's ethnic media that has the trust of the communities that they serve. And I think that rings true about all outlets that work in this diversity media space, particularly those who serve diaspora communities. Communities are just more willing to talk to us because they really see us as part of their community, part of them. We approach the stories in a culturally relevant manner that can really provide a deeper, richer understanding of these communities. And we can be the bridge for general market stations who want to cover specific communities, but maybe they can't dive as deep as we can. And so that promotes opportunities for partnerships and collaboration. One example of this value is there was this really horrible incident that happened. Maybe it was 2013, 2014, or 2014. There was a limousine that was crossing the San Mateo Bridge, and it was full of women who were at a bridal shower. The limousine caught on fire. Everyone died in the limousine. Most of the women in that limousine were Filipino American. Everyone in the region was covering this story. Many of the families wouldn't talk to other stations, but they would talk to us, the Filipino channel, because they trusted us. We could speak to them in Tagalog if they needed to. We ended up sharing video and interviews with other stations because we were able to get the sound bites that they couldn't get. So that's just one of the examples of, and we have many examples of that. I just was in touch with Al Jazeera, who was looking for video that we had taken about a story that was happening in the Filipino American community on the East Coast that they wanted video of, that they didn't have. This trust that we have, this sort of insider access to these communities that we can bring, that can really enrich the way these communities get covered in the entire media landscape.
Yeah, I remember that happening. That was a tragic story. But yeah, I didn't even know about the ethnicity of the other people that were involved in that. Wow.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Troy, about how NATAS as an organization should reflect the audiences that they serve. The San Francisco chapter is many regions throughout the state and Hawaii. And I think that sometimes we don't realize the diversity of culture that we have in this chapter. What do you hope the takeaway is for the participants of the Diversity Media Zoom Roundtable?
So our effort around diversity media is really just starting. In this first step with this Zoom roundtable, we're wanting to gather those who are creating this media, those who are operating in this space, gather them in this event, get to know who they are, understand who the communities that they're serving and to what degree do they serve them, and to really find out how we as an organization can support those efforts, because we do offer a variety of benefits for our members, but maybe we can gain some insight from them about different benefits that we can develop that can better specifically serve their needs, that can specifically help them elevate what they're trying to do or amplify what they're trying to do, and to help them be more visible. I think that this is an opportunity for our organization to really welcome more members into our group. I think this is an opportunity for us to really understand the spectrum of content creators that operate in this region. So I think it's a win-win for everybody that participates, that gets involved in this. Certainly, NATAS will benefit from a more diverse membership in general.
Yeah, I think we've had a pretty good response so far. I've got at least 2 of the NATAS presidents are interested in attending.
We have about 26 RSVPs.
Oh, wow.
And half of them are not us.
By not us, you mean non-NATAS?
Not NATAS, yeah.
That's fantastic.
So it's great. That's a good mix so far, particularly because we have clearly having the diversity groups represented here. The Queer Women's Media Arts Project is going to be there. The president of the Bay Area Black Journalists Association. We have AAJA Hawaii is going to be there. A few folks from the Filipino channel. I think we're hitting all the different groups. Maybe not all of them, but there's a really good representation of the ethnic and minority media landscape.
Is it the Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project?
The one that you
Fantastic.
The one that your wife found, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just with that group, it will be an interesting roundtable already.
I'm very encouraged by the amount of people interested.
And one of the teachers in my department also teaches at BAVAC. Troy, do you think that one of the places we might look for diversity of ethnicity and diversity of thought would be a college campus?
Certainly. I completely think that would be smart, because we found, for example, at the Filipino channel, that at the university level, when young people get to those campuses, they're exposed to a whole new world, right? And on those campuses, you see these diversity groups, student organizations that represent various ethnicities, various social groups. If we want to kind of see what's happening in the greater society, I think college campuses are really the microcosm for that, because whatever a person is interested or in discovering, identifying with, participating in, they have those opportunities for them on these college campuses.
Absolutely. Yeah, our college students are the next generation of broadcasters. We want to foster that kind of creation early.
Absolutely. And if it's a university or a college that has a media program, a broadcast program, you can bet that you're going to see a diversity of students participating in those programs.
So Troy, aside from our roundtable coming up, what other events do you think could excel diversity in our chapter?
Well, I think that we can certainly do events that sort of spotlight particular communities and the content creators who are serving those communities, so we can see how nuanced or the really unique ways that they're doing that, and maybe learn from the way that they approach their content. We can definitely develop activities around skills training. I've talked to other folks in the ethnic media space, and one interesting thing about these types of organizations is that, yes, many of them work with so many veteran journalists and producers, but some of the people that they engage with that tell stories, they may not have formal media training or broadcast training. They're just people in the community who are really passionate about serving their community, and they want to contribute to their communities in this way. So for those who are availing of talents who may not have that formal training, this is an opportunity for us to help them. They might just be a broadcast 101, reporting 101 type of classes, but that's valuable, and that will just help these organizations even more. What better organization to help them with that than NATAS, because particularly in our chapter, we have educators who can do these, who can teach them these skills, and that's what their job is in their actual day. So yeah, I think our organization is really uniquely positioned to help them in this way.
Well, and that works two ways. I think that you have a lot to educate us with as well. I just love this idea that we're making this commitment to diversity. We're focusing on this specifically, because the more that we know about cultures that are foreign to us will help us to communicate with those cultures. But I think it'll also help us in outreach to get more members into our organization. It's great to have more members, but it's also great to be able to celebrate those communities that are coming into our chapter and to make us think in more universal terms about what we are as a broadcasting chapter.
In the end, we're all the same chapter, and I want to make sure everybody's voice is heard.
I agree. And I think that as a person who has built a career in ethnic media, to have the support from an organization like NATAS, I'm really grateful for it. And I think the energy and the desire that the board has shown for this is just, it's really great. And it just speaks to the overall passion of this region to be the best that it can be. And I'm glad we're making this effort.
Well, thank you, Troy. That's some great information. I'm really excited about where we can go with this in the future. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, You're welcome. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Troy.
I encourage anybody listening to reach out to us. You can find myself, Steve, and Troy's contact information on the podcast page below, or contact us for any questions, please.
Yes, and the date again is October 3rd at 10 a.m. Register for the Zoom Roundtable at daryl@mesf.tv.
And if you can't make the live event, we are going to archive it, so look for the recording on the website at a later date.
Also, be on the lookout for our next Setting Presidents podcast in a couple of weeks. We'll be talking about our virtual Gold and Silver Circle induction event.
And a big change this year, the induction will be via Zoom, and it also includes our college scholarship presentation, and we have over $20,000 we're giving away to students.
Thanks, Randy, and a special thanks to Troy Espera for helping us bring light on diversity and inclusion in our chapter.